How you doing today?
Doing all right. How about you, man?
I am doing real good. So I am here with Hunter Kelly of Trestles.
Hi, that's me.
That is you. And you just had an album come out, and we'll talk about that in a second. But let's get into Trestles. How did y'all start as a band?
Uh, Trestles sort of came out of the ashes of my little high school band project that I had with two of my buddies, Jackson and Cameron, and that was kind of like my whole creative outlet in high school. And the pandemic hits in my last few years of that, and I find out everyone's kind of moving away. And I'm like, well, darn, I want to keep playing music, so I'm gonna start a new band. And so over the course of quarantine, I had a little group of friends who would meet online and just kind of like talk to keep each other sane, essentially. And it was out of that my friend Sophia, she kind of got the first gig at a venue slot for me and my band, which I didn't have anymore. And so it was at that point where we kind of just said, hey, you and I, we could start something. We put out a song or two, and that's kind of how it all started.
Yeah. And let's talk about the band members. Who name everybody in the band, what they do, maybe how you met them.
Yeah, absolutely. So Sophia was the first one to start this with me. She plays bass in the band. Um, I met her just through that sort of online group of friends chatting. We were mutuals, and she's now come down to UCSC and got to spend some time in town with her, and that's how we started the band.
From
Uh,
where?
then there was
Where
my
where 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 did she come down from?
oh, she was from Novato originally, up there in Marin County. She a couple places. I think she was in Berkeley for a while, but so we met online when she was still living up there, and then she came down for college, and that's how that started. Um, Also in the band is Milena Clark, who plays drums, and I went to high school with her, although she's a couple years older than me, so we never really like chatted, but she connected when me and Sophia started putting stuff out, saying, "Hey, I need a drummer," and so we kind of knew each other a little bit. And but she had all this past experience of being like properly trained to play an instrument, unlike the rest of us, and so she brings a lot to the table. Very glad to have her.
Okay.
And then also we have Jackson Jones on guitar, who was my buddy from my original high school band. So we've been playing together for as long as I've been playing. So it's nice to have someone who I'm, kind of comfortable with and have a history with. And so yeah, that's the band. But we do frequently collaborate with my buddy Cooper Weens on the album, and he sings in the songs, and he plays in Trestles every time he's in town. But I think he's taking some time for college down south right now. And also Milena's good friend Sean O'Connell has been playing keys for us live recently. So we've sort of surrounded ourselves with lots of people willing to help to add to the project.
Yeah, it's like truly a community focus, it seems
Oh
like.
yeah,
That's
absolutely.
rad. When did you start playing?
I started teaching myself the guitar in eighth grade because I thought girls would start talking to me if I did. So that was how I started down that path, and then I kind of got more interested in just like the artsy side of music, and it's like there's more to it than that. And so I started that about eighth grade, freshman year, start the band with my friends, and we started playing shows or whatever it is at that age, just going outside of art and wine festival. You've set up outside front, get whatever gigs you basically can scavenge at that age. But so I consider that the start of my gigging career.
Um, what were you started playing along to? I guess when you first started playing in general in eighth grade.
When just sort of the edgy high school band you like. You listen to your Nirvana, your Chili Peppers, just your introduction to basic alternative rock. With most kids, I think, uh, that the sort of stuff that excites you at that age. And that was all we were when we were in high school, just kind of jamming on covers of stuff like that.
Yeah. Do you remember your first like song that you maybe nailed on guitar?
Actually, yes, I do know this one. So it was actually for the eighth grade talent show. I got together a group of my friends, and we just ripped a mad Smells Like Teen Spirit, and I didn't want to smash my guitar, but I wanted to be Kurt Cobain, so I brought a ukulele to sub in at the end and do the whole smash and pretend I'm sick. But that was the first song I performed in front of an audience, I believe.
I probably got some people out to your shows, maybe way down the line. They're like, that was that dude who smashed a ukulele.
I remember that 8th grader. He was pretty rad. Yeah, I'd like to think.
How was that received at the time? Were people really stoked on it? I'm sure they were.
It was cool. I mean, that definitely what got me into, getting excited by playing live. That's like the first experience ever. And when it's sort of that young, you feel like you're the only person who could do it, even though I'm, sure, tunnel vision, like anyone could play guitar, right? But I think I'm like, yeah, look at me, I'm up here doing something I don't see anyone else doing. So that started my passion for the live performance aspect of it, for sure.
Let's fast forward a little bit to high school. What were some like notable shows you maybe played that you can kind of remember as something like formative, or something you were stoked on that was maybe bigger?
I do remember the first turning point with my high school band, and this band's called Speedwalker. We still sometimes get together today and jam on some newer, weirder music. But with Speedwalker, we had this one gig that I will always remember as being kind of like the peak of my high school career, I guess. It was that there was a battle of the bands in Palo Alto, and it was sort of like a whoever brings the most friends should win, because it's a voting based system. So we're like, okay, we're going to be host here. We'll bring up the 5 or so friends that are willing to come, but it's a bunch of local bands from that area. And we went in thinking we had no shot, and we were more doing it just for fun. And it was like this weird elimination system where they had judges, and judges could save a band if they didn't get votes. And we got saved all the way until the end, basically, in the final round, where it was us and a band that I think was honestly quite a bit better than us. And I think it was the Santa Cruz shout out, and there were some people who were coming out for other bands that everyone kind of rallied behind our cause and voted us to win. And when we won a battle of the bands in high school, I was on cloud 9. That was like the greatest experience of my life at that time. And that gig felt big. There was something about it. But that's my big high school memory.
Yeah. How old were you at the time?
Oh God, I want to say 16, 17, something like that. So in the grand scheme of things, I guess it wasn't that long ago, although it feels like forever ago.
Yeah. How old are you?
I'm 19.
Yeah, I guess it wasn't really that long ago.
Not really.
So I mean, that was like just pre-pandemic, right?
Yeah, that was just pre-pandemic. And that was the real unfortunate thing about that, is because that felt like the ultimate like push for momentum. And then we just booked a Catalyst Atrium gig after that, and we were all excited to go and be like, yeah, we're a real band now, kind of go back home to high school and kind of brag about it a little bit. But then the pandemic hit, and we never ended up getting to play those shows. And that was just, I believe that Battle of the Bands was like February 2020. So it was like a week before the great disaster began.
Yeah. Dang. Well, the cool thing, it like pushed you to actually go through with it during the pandemic and like keep on talking about it. You seem obviously still hyped. So yeah, let's go into Trestles now. What's been your experience with like kind of the reception? I mean, you guys are kind of taken off, especially for like a newer band. I mean, this is a prime time for you. I mean, like some of the new songs that you have, like let me just look at examples, like off your new album you just released, 30,000 spins on some of these, on your first song, or sorry, Rip Curl Sweatshirt, or sorry. Oh yeah, that's what it says. Yeah, I was gonna be like, rest in peace Curl Sweatshirt. No,
nailed it. Yeah. That was a mouthful.
Yeah, so how do you feel about the reception? Is this like kind of almost what you expected? Like you're packing shows in Santa Cruz, you're playing around. What are your thoughts?
It came much faster than one might expect, because I mean, I did that whole, I mean, I don't know how serious you could talk about it, but that whole high school band operation seemed like my whole world at that point. And nothing happens. And then all of a sudden Trestles off the start, and I think a lot of it was fueled by that kind of post-pandemic like need to get outside and interact with something, and just the timing was kind of the perfect storm for us, where our first show was at this venue, the Phoenix Theater in Petaluma, where it was either the first or second show back, and people just came in numbers. And when your first show you ever play is to like 300 people, it gives you the start and the momentum to just be like, okay, keep the ball rolling, keep the ball rolling. And my parents always say just like hard work, good things come to those who work hard, essentially. And I figured if I work really hard at this band project and constantly put more and more music out and play as many shows and meet as many people as I can, that it would kind of, become something else. But the rate at which it came, the reception of the UCSC scene in particular has just been so overwhelmingly awesome. And I really appreciate kind of the trajectory that this band has been on and how quickly, we've covered the ground that we have.
Who booked that Phoenix Theater show? Like
That,
how did that happen? How did you get so many people out? Because you're based in Santa Cruz. So
yeah, absolutely. It's that's a weird one for sure. But so Sophia got me that gig, and it was for that, that gig that we started having a band. Basically, she got this gig before we had a band, and we had to build a band just to fill the slot at the show. And I think it wasn't us, because there was 3 other bands on the bill who were like from there, so I'm sure they helped a lot. But I think it was more just the community of that venue. It's a very pro artist kind of, just a lot of kids spend their whole days there hanging out. It's bordering on a squat, but it's the coolest thing I've ever seen. There's just kids skating in the main room whenever it's not being used as a venue. And these sort of have like a crazy tight knit community of just, getting excited about, and, music that comes through, whoever it is, especially when it's smaller acts. And it absolutely had nothing to do with us being there, but there was that many people there, and that was a lot of eyes on us at the beginning. And so that I think that was huge. Having that be your first show is kind of irregular, but that post-pandemic energy just kind of made it what it was.
yeah, and you guys are more or less like I mean, yeah, it's good party music. It's good like fun, dance music kind of popping around. You said something to me when we were talking a little bit ago about like your transition from like surf rock maybe into something else. Can you like elaborate on that? Like, do you remember this conversation?
Yeah, no, absolutely. On a beautiful rainy day at Aldo's,
Yeah.
we early inspiration just sort of came from, there's this playlist on Spotify that I listen to that I just adore, and it's called Surf Rock Sunshine, and it's like a lot of like just kind of surface level indie classics, as well as just any sort of like fun upbeat song that's got a real reverby guitar and a positive energy, I guess. And so that was definitely kind of the root ideas of what I thought this band should sound like. That's what I think Santa Cruz should sound like. That's how I feel just living here, and making a sound that is very intentionally like sort of reflects that, I guess, was the inspiration for that sort of start. And although it's nothing like your old surf standards of like your Apache or your Dick Dale, all that sort of fun stuff, but it's got sonic textures in there that are very much influenced from that. You just get a drippy reverby guitar playing single note lines, and it sounds pretty cool. Gives it just enough sort of surf that it feels Santa Cruz to me.
What are you sort of rocking for your pedals or your guitar tone or sound that maybe reflects that, and maybe what's something a little bit different that you use to kind of achieve the sound in your band?
Me and Jackson sort of love Fender guitars in particular, just because like that, I feel like that image is just like the classic, like the 50s ads of like some guy with the jazz master on a surfboard or something like that, and that just sort of feels like that era. And sort of bringing those guitars that everyone uses, but use them sort of how they were intentionally designed for, with a lot of reverb through a spring amp, and that's kind of the sound, that's the sauce. It's nothing too brave by any means, but it serves the sound well, I think, and bringing it to a more like garage rocky sound kind of makes it a little more edgier and a little more exciting, in my opinion.
What do you think, like, out of your band members, what do you think has kind of, because you guys are, there's definitely elements of surfiness to it, but I mean, you work with so many different people in the band. Like, what sort of like directions does everybody take in the band, or what sort of like different sort of music styles pop up? What I'm saying? Like, kind of
Yeah,
who's spreading it out, who's making you guys sound bigger than just surf rock?
I I I think most like so my role I feel like is just to sort of direct it to like that kind of surfy vibe where it's like it's got an idea, but the rest of them are so musically broad and like everything that they have, and so they're the rest of the band I think makes it something else. What makes it more than just that, a boring indie track that like I could have written. They bring a lot of musicality to the table. They've all studied jazz, which is interesting and weird, and I don't know if that really comes through so much as there if it's just like sort of chops that it gave them. But no, I think everyone in this band listens to very, very different music. Like, just because I'm sort of like funneling it in a direction, like all the interesting other stuff that comes out is largely due to the other members of my band.
Yeah. What do you guys sort of listen to when you're traveling around together in the same car?
I think the common ground, and this is like the baseline, like holy grail band for us that sort of inspires what makes a good like pop rock song is the Strokes. You like, bar none, best band. It's Beatles worship and it's beautiful. It's the modern approach of kind of making pop music a little more exciting with guitars, and it's building blocks, and we love it. We love
Cool.
it a
I
lot.
just watched was it Meet Me in the Bathroom?
Oh, is
Uh
that out?
yeah, it's on Showtime. So if you get Showtime on some streaming service, get it for on Hulu, you get it for like 3 months and it's like 99 cents a month, and then you cancel it because I couldn't find anything else I really care about on there. Um,
Exactly.
but it's out there, yeah. And for anybody who's kind of listening, it's just about early 2000s in New York City. Um, and like yeahs and Strokes, basically, and then another band which I cannot remember the name of that I really enjoyed.
Was it
Not
was
enjoyed
it
doing.
Hives as well?
What's up?
Hives as well?
I didn't
I
notice the hives. Can't remember. There was like a third one, and I'm totally
yeah,
blanking on it.
I know it's just
But
like that whole early garage New York scene is just kind of the basis of everything we do. So I've definitely been meaning to get out and
yeah,
uh yeah, Jackson told me about that film a while ago when it was first announced, and I was very excited.
I haven't really publicly said this anywhere, but I am I'm moving to New York City in February.
Whoa.
I'm excited. It's time for me to move on, try the music scene out there a little bit. So if you guys ever come out, I'll do my best to send you off, get some shows for you or whatever. Um, cool. Let's talk about the production on the album. Who produced it? Where did you guys do it? And we'll kind of go more into the songs. But what's like the broad picture? What were you kind of thinking about when you were just starting to record this album?
Um, we were just excited to kind of put music out in a big package because we had been a song band at that point, so just single after single after single, and they were all done a different way. So putting together one coherent piece of work was just a big enough idea in itself that we kind of didn't go in with too much of a plan. Originally, we were getting help from our buddy CJ, who has his own record label that he's running called Ikaika Records. And he basically gave us a bro deal and was like, hey, since you're my first real like kind of like rock band project I'm working on, I'll give you real good rates on my stuff. And we appreciated him for it. And we tracked the drums at our practice space at Melena's house, just kind of in her little basement where we practice. And then we recorded every layer after that in CJ's home studio. And we didn't know what we were doing, essentially. We were just excited to do it. There was no plan, and it was good. But then the summer kind of hit, and Sophia has to go back home. I start picking up a full-time job, and we get really busy, essentially. and our buddy CJ does too. And so he produces the track Rip Curl Sweatshirt. We drop it as a single, and then we kind of realize that we want to take over production because we just bought a ton of gear, and we're like, okay, we don't want to make this guy re-record it, and we've already like paid him, he's maxed out his rate on us, and we've spent way too much time, and we feel bad making him do any more work. So for the rest of the songs, we met up at my place while my house was undergoing renovation. So we had this big open room that had not furnished at all. So we have this big reverb room, recorded the rest of it there. Sounded pretty cool. And then I just took over production over the next couple months.
So you guys recorded it?
Yes.
Whoa, that is surprising. It sounds great. I mean, I was just listening on my nice speakers at home, and I was bumping it. Yeah, that's pretty surprising. So like, so then did you guys mix it too, or like how did that next process? Wow.
Yeah. So this was the most stressful, long, drawn out process of all time, because we thought we were saving time by me taking over the job, but you have a job, you have school, you have all these other things to balance, and producing an entire record becomes very overwhelming. My band was giving me tips all along the way, but I kind of just had to teach myself everything from like how I'm gonna layer drum samples in to make the snare a little bit fatter, or like how to even process vocals, because I didn't go in with a ton of experience, but it essentially was just taking time that made it sound as pleasing as it did, I think, and just attention to detail when I had time to do that. But I mixed it all in GarageBand instead of Logic, just because I thought it would be funny to say that my album was mixed on GarageBand. So we did. And there's definitely something about putting yourself in like a creative box where it's like using a software that is so very just limited and fundamentals that kind of creates the simple sound and like doesn't give me too many options to like really screw it up. So I thought, doing it in GarageBand would be the way, and I'm pleased with how it sounds.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna nerd out for a second. How did you sample? I mean, because I've seen this happen. I know there's programs that do, but how did you kind of bump up like a snare sound with like the replacement software, especially with GarageBand?
Yeah. So because it's GarageBand, you can't. I mean, I'm sure there's a way, but with plugins and all that sort of good stuff. But I'm not really smart in that sort of way. So I just sort of brute labored it, and after quantizing all the drum tracks, I would then go in and manually MIDI track every kick and snare hit, so that we can, kind of beef it up with like, if we want to make a certain song have more of like that sort of modern indie production where that snare is just wide and takes up that whole mix and it's got that nice punch to it. But I manually MIDI tracked all of those and then kind of imported our own sound libraries from either just the stock GarageBand ones, or I'd go on YouTube and find little MP3 clips of snares, leaking stems from albums that I like. And
Dude, I'm getting I'm so pumped on what you're saying right now. That's wild. I mean, like especially for first time production. I mean, you're getting nothing but amazing. Yeah, I mean, this is you guys just first starting out. So when you go further down the line, you're gonna have so much more, like so many more tools. So let's talk about vocal processing a little bit. Yeah, because there's you do a different song to song, but I love kind of the grittiness. I noticed like kind of the strokes grittiness. How did you do that with your vocals?
I'm a big sucker for good like fuzzy vocals, and lots of healthy verb attached to that. But essentially a trick that I learned from my buddy Jordan in a band called Hersing with production is kind of always having one like really dry layer, and then if you're going to apply effects to it, then like bring it to a different channel and then start throwing stuff on it, so that you could kind of like phase it in and out with each other, which is essentially just doing an effects bus, but like in GarageBand where they don't have that. So as long as we spent a long time perfecting the clean channel, and once you get the crisp sound that's like audible and really good, then you just duplicate that layer and start throwing shit on it and then moving it up and down and kind of just uh, making sure that the clear one's there. So as weird and messed up as you get with the fuzz and all those effects that you put on it, there's still some level of clarity to it that you can kind of like cut through the mix with.
How'd you mess with the clean track? What were you kind of looking for out of a clean track on your vocals?
Just like the healthy, just enough compression to make it sit right. And I used a lot of presets, to be 100% honest with you. It's not like scientist by any means, but you just get you get good compression, you get good EQ, and then healthy reverb is kind of what it takes to not sound amateurish, because I don't know, reverb can hide a lot of things, and the imperfections in my GarageBand production were very hidden in reverb. So that's just the clean channel. But oh god, I love putting just loads and loads of gain on it to make those really fuzzy noises, and it's great. It's great.
Dang, dude. So yeah, anybody listening out there, you can make a whole freaking album that's well received on GarageBand. Who knew? Yeah, okay, let's go into the songs a little bit. So we got, for the songs on the album, we have Dwell, Steering Wheel, Rip Curl Sweatshirt, Backstage Girl, Gretchels. Am I saying that right?
Getchels.
Oh yeah, Getchels. Bad Party Trick, Second Peak, That's How It Goes, Half Past Noon, and Bite the Bullet. Okay, first, anything that comes to mind when you're thinking like something that was particularly difficult to produce, or something that you worked mostly on, or something you're really happy about out of those tracks?
I think they all took pretty equal amounts of time, because they all were so similar in the process, and I wouldn't like start one song, finish one, start one, finish one. I would do every step of each one as we went. Like I'd start with drums, drum processing. Okay, let's put some samples on it. Let's record the bass, then guitar layers. And so because they all kind of were built at the same rate, it didn't feel like one in particular was sort of a standout, with the major exception of Bite the Bullet, which was a reimagination of a song we had released earlier. And it was it's a song written by Sophia and sung by Sophia, where it was originally her and an acoustic guitar. And then I sort of Trestleified it for the first version we put out. And it sort of lost the charm in it, because it's very much a good lyric song, and that's more important. So instead, we chose to strip it down to just an acoustic guitar and her voice. But we wanted to get kind of artsy with it to make it, because we like challenging ourselves in that way. And we recorded it on a 4-track tape recorder, so it sounds real like warped and kind of distorted. But doing it that way was kind of our way of, adding some artistic value to it. And she had all these ideas for these cassette skips at the beginning and the end. So if there's a song that's like really stand out on the album with the production of it, it's that one for sure. It's totally
Go down the line. You can describe, I'm going to say each song, you can describe it with one word. You can kind of talk about it, talk about the lyrics. I have a few questions about specific songs, but Dwell.
Dwell is the song that started it all, and that's why it is track 1 on the album. It's still the original version I recorded, but this was essentially a song that I had rushed out to make when Sophia first told me we got that gig and says, hey, we have a band. I'm like, okay, I guess we need songs. So that was the first one I came up with, and it just it felt so, it came out quickly, so I knew that this was kind of the blueprint for the band. So Dwell is the one that started it all, so it's track 1.
Steering Wheel.
Steering Wheel is an older one that I wrote with Cooper, and we wrote it long before Trestles, back when we were just sort of hanging out writing songs together for no project in particular. And when Trestles started, he came to me and said, hey, we have all these songs, let's bring them to the band. And Steering Wheel was the one that stuck. So that one kind of became a live favorite for a lot of people who learned the words before it came out. So that one we knew was that was an important one for us. So
yeah, special, great one for like a second song, especially.
Yeah, feels like a good second song. Absolutely. It's usually second on the set list too, so it definitely has, it feels like song 2. There's something about it.
You get people to the audience or in the audience for the first song, and then you just give them a banger for the second. It makes sense. Rip Curl Sweatshirt.
Rip Curl Sweatshirt's the big one for us. That's the one that we recorded with CJ in his home studio. And basically lyrically it's a tribute to my friends and in the band, in particular Sophia and Cooper, and details a night of us going to San Francisco to go see a show. And it was a real event, and it was a real like kind of core memory for me. So that's how that song came. And when we first released it as a single, it got put on a Spotify playlist. In fact, it got put on 3 actually. So that was what kind of gave it its big numbers, and made us start taking the band super duper seriously, because we're like, whoa, that's a big number. And kind of makes you excited about things, even though it's just a number on a screen.
Yeah. Backstage Girl. I'm also curious to see if you have any thing to say about the lyrics at all.
Yeah, that song is kind of an amalgam, or it's a combination of two stories. One is just the day-to-day experience I get from playing shows at Urbani Cellar in Santa Cruz, which kind of became our spot to play. Or I mean, there's a lot of band spots, but for us it was kind of where, it was the old stomping grounds where we built an audience for the first time and had a local presence. And it's sort of talks a lot about the charms of, just like a small room that smells like cigarettes, and it's just like how rock and roll does it get. You can't top that. And then it's also a combination between just sort of being around that, and then the story of my friend's interest in another person, and just kind of like being afraid to talk to them. You combine those two, and you got a story of someone, chasing someone around in a venue, and that, kind of just feels like the sort of stuff we see day to day. So that's what that song's about.
Yeah, it's like I guess like just a little bit of a break to what is your like lyric writing process? Do you just like sit down and do it? Is there kind of like you just kind of constantly journaling stuff, or what's the idea behind the vocals?
I have uh I have 2 sort of sources for vocals. Is one, for a chorus, it's just like that's the start. You have to have a good chorus, or else you don't have a good song. And so I sort of kind of let whatever falls out of my mouth fall out of my mouth for a chorus, and then I let that determine the rest of it. And I could usually build a story around it for the verses and whatnot. But for the verses, to kind of like spice it up and add little clever things in there, I have a notes I have a notes document on my phone where whenever I say something that I think is kind of clever or could be interpreted as sounding kind of cool, I write it down. And what my girlfriend told me to call it the barsenal, because it's my arsenal of bars. So I I draw from there whenever I need to fill in the blank, and I sort of play a game with it. But start to the chorus, work your way backwards. That's my way.
Hell yeah. Bad Party Trick. Your thoughts on that?
Oh, Bad Party Chick. That's a fun one. That was the first real like start to finish musical collaboration with everyone in the band, because all the other songs are kind of like someone had an idea and it was sort of their song and it got built into something and the live version changed. But this one, everything about it is just a full band collaboration between the 4 of us who play instruments. And it started as sort of, it was an instrumental for a really long time until I could throw some words on it. But it's very much a tribute to what I was talking about earlier with that sort of early garage rock, just simple building block pop rock music, with just trying to build like hype moments with the call and response guitars and the drums going to 16ths really quickly. And it's a little musical flex for the drums for sure with that track.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely noticed that. Yeah, let's for a second. What drums? You know what I think about your band and the drummer? Was it
Yeah.
Milana?
Elena.
Milena.
Elena, yeah, no.
Yeah, let's talk about her.
Yeah.
Because she's fast.
She is
First off,
fast.
and then has a incredible sound dynamics on the kit, like makes the crashes pop, the snare always sounds good, and just like generally a great performer. So that's it's hard to find a good drummer in general.
Absolutely. No, it's the common struggle, and I know every person says this ever, but like how a drummer is the make or break aspect of a band, and if that's the case, then I've got a pretty damn good band. So
Hell
I'm
yeah.
very lucky to have her, and when she showed up, it was a new level of sort of like intricacy with dynamics that I had never experienced before with a drummer, and it's she's easy to work with. She's very easy to work with, and
Wow,
I am very appreciative of all that she has provided to the band so far.
it's great. Second peak.
Second peak. That one was a creation by me, Milena, and Cooper. And on the record, Cooper and Milena sort of sing it as a duet together. And it's sort of combining the two like sort of flavors of this like surf indie vibe that we're chasing, where it has these kind of quiet choruses with the slower vibier like acoustic guitars and weird like kind of floaty synths. Um, and then it kicks into the sort of more fiddler inspired like surf punk stuff. Uh, Shout out Subpar, a band that from Santa Cruz that I took a lot of inspiration from, where it's got sort of that revved up punk sense of that sort of stuff. That's gets us excited and really fun live to have such extreme two dynamics. But yeah, that's the inspiration for that one.
All right. That's how it goes.
That's how it goes is one that Milena wrote and sings on the album, and she brought it to us a long time ago, back when we had some different people in the band, and she would come up and perform it. It was sort of like her thing because she used to play guitar in the band before she played drums, and that was sort of her song to go up and perform. And then we forgot about it when she shifted to being the drummer for the longest time, and then for the album we reworked it just because it's a fun little catchy number. And it's I'm glad she gets her song on the album because she's a very talented singer. She's the best singer in the band. I don't know what I'm doing up in the front.
Yeah, not a lot of bands let the drummer sing a song, make a song. So damn, you got a good crew. Half past noon.
Half Past Noon was sort of the last one finished on the album, and it sort of exists because we don't have a lot of slow songs, and it does that sort of like more like bigger distorted reverby slow drip sound that we haven't really explored a ton of in that genre. And having that be sort of like a slower like ooh kind of trippier song with a synth on the top as well, uh kind of fill the hole that the album was missing for that type of song. And it came really late, and it got finished really late, and had about 10 different vocal melodies written for it before it was finished. But I'm glad it made it, because there were some other ones that were cut, and I think that this one had a lot of potential, and we didn't see it to the last minute, but it made it, and people have been saying good things about it. Although we've never played it live, so we really have no idea how the public perceives it.
I'll be honest, I haven't got this far on the album yet. So it's like kind of a slower song, more ballady. Is that right?
Yeah, a little more ballady. Still, I mean, still mid tempo rock song like from the rest of the album, but this one's definitely the start of like it slowing down, which ultimately ends in the final track. We'll
Yeah.
transition. Bite the Bullet is like I said earlier, we reimagined this song that we've had for a while that was written by Sophia, and did it the way that she intended it to sound, and I think it's all the better for it. There was no need to kind of turn it into a faster indie song, other than we just wanted exciting music to play. But bringing it back to how it was written as a slow acoustic guitar song kind of felt like the right way to close the album.
What sort of like because as an album, usually people it's like it ramps up to kind of like the first three, four, five songs, and then it kind of like gets into a little bit more interesting stuff, and then it kind of gets like trippy near the end. What are your that's generally how it goes, I guess. Kind of what are your examples of like well crafted albums that you maybe based it for this album or just in general that you love?
Yeah, no, that's typically the trajectory I would totally agree with, where we kind of put our like the first five sort of a peak, and then like side split, like you're flipping the record. Like then the second half brings you the more artsy songs, and then ultimately ending in some sort of like weird artistic statement, which for us was the acoustic song on it that we recorded on tape. But I think sort of following the two hump method with the energy, like woo woo, and then that's how I structure set lists too. Honestly, I think it's a very similar chemistry.
Yeah. What are some of your favorite albums?
Some of my favorite albums, an album that like immediately sticks out to me is kind of doing that, and is another one of those sort of like Bible albums for writing pop rock, in my opinion, is Whatever People Say I Am, That's What I'm Not, the debut by Arctic Monkeys. I think that has a real perfect album structure with, some really hit you in the face openers and a lot of excitement in the first half that ends in like, okay, it slows down, quiet song in the middle with Riot Van, and then another side of like exciting things ultimately ending in one of the more artsy songs. And I think that's just kind of how you make an album. It's great.
What kind of young kid were you? Like, what were you like as a kid in general? What
Uh,
sorts of people did you hang out with?
I definitely I've changed. I've been a lot of people in my life, and I think every time I switched schools, I became a different person. When I was like real young, I was a total rule follower. Do everything I can to the best of my ability. I always try and be a good person like that, but I was an exceedingly like rule follower type. Yes, teacher, I'll do my homework person in elementary school, and then I started being more of a goofball in middle school, because you discover you're either like trying to be really cool or trying to be really funny, and I preferred trying to be a little goofier. So I thought I was like kind of a goofy kid. And then in high school, I was just a busy kid. I didn't get to do a lot of the things I kind of wanted to do in high school, just because I was doing a lot of things. Like I was, doing sports, working jobs, doing basically filling out a schedule as best as I could. But now that I've gone off to college and got to be my own person, I think I just like working hard at something like music that's like more creative. So above all else, I think that's the one consistent thing in my life, is trying to be a creative person and find creative ways of doing things, because I'm kind of lazy.
I guess what do you see as some of the challenges in your band?
Some of the challenges in the band. I mean, we've lucked out with sort of the trajectory and stuff, and I think breaking Santa Cruz is kind of the next big goal for us. Like I have no real complaints with everything that's happened so far. We've accomplished a lot in a little amount of time, but breaking out of the town will be good. I mean, we play shows outside of Santa Cruz frequently, but Santa Cruz is the only place we could really, headline our own show and have a good number of people come out. If we ever play anywhere outside of town, like we're opening for someone else, and no complaints with that. I've enjoyed meeting people. It's like kind of the most gratifying experience I've ever had. But I guess finding an audience outside of town, because we are so catered to be a Santa Cruz band that it's we're gonna see if other people like that sound too, and that's where we're at.
They will. And I always ask every single person who's on the show this: what is your idea of success for yourself?
My idea of success for myself is just living a life in which I am happy, and by proxy, I make other people happy. And whether that's with this band or not, I don't know. I like to think that this band makes other people happy, and just at least the process of it, just to my bandmates, where we all enjoy what we're doing because we're working hard at something, and it gets good response. If that's making them happy and that's making me happy, then I'm living the most successful life I possibly could. That's kind of it.
There you go. Let's gonna wrap this up soon, but what sort of shout outs do you have?
Shout outs. Coming out this Friday is Slutney's debut EP. Slutney's a really cool, kick-ass femme band, UCSC scene. We absolutely love them. Their EP, Another Something Nice, is coming out this Friday. Big shout out to that. Go listen to that, pre-save that, do all that good stuff. Shout out to our album. Listen to it. It just came out, Halfway Up the Hill by Trestles. We worked hard on it, and you might like it too. And thanks, Mom and Dad. I love you. And that's about it.
All right. And I guess anything else you want to add? Anything to your to the fans? So you know what I think is so cool about this interview in general is you're gonna be doing so many things, especially if you're already producing your album, if you have like this, good head on your shoulders, which I've always said. I think that's like the reason why I've wanted to interview you so much.
Thanks, Zach.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what would be something kind of to your future self that you might want to listen back? Because I think you're gonna listen to this in 10 years and be stoked. What's something to your future self that you might want to say?
Well, I certainly hope that I'm stoked when I listen to this in 10 years. Maybe we'll see if you've gotten better at talking on radio, because this is my first time doing this. This is super fun. I'm stoked I get to do it with my homeboy Zen here. Well, I hope you're still as excited about it as you are right now, because I'm pretty damn excited about it.
All right, cool. Well, this has been the Zen Perry Project. Hunter Kelly of Trestles. We'll talk in a second right after this, but I'll stop that recording. Thanks everybody for listening.
Thank you.